I'm here, superstar, well-known land entitlement, land development expert, Cody Bjugan.
I've done tons of construction where I've actually put in all the infrastructure, the streets, the utilities, the sidewalks. That's what almost bankrupted me in 2007, was projects that I was actually developing. We are in the business of controlling real estate, not owning real estate. When you control real estate, you maintain all your flexibility. I wrote her a check for 150 grand. She carried 150 grand. I put that into my land bank division and I'm selling it to my entitlement company for the $1.3 million.
Sure.
And so now I have an additional upside that could have been hers.
Hey there, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things real estate, entrepreneurship, finance, and today we're going to talk about land, but not about my land kind of business, but instead my guest's land business. I'm here, superstar, well-known land entitlement, land development expert, Cody Bjugan, and a good friend of mine. We've had coffee many times. We live 12 minutes away from each other, and finally I got him in here in person. So Cody, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I mean, that's the fact that we haven't gotten together at each other's houses, even though we're 12 minutes away.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to fix that. But
we have to.
Thanks for
Well,
having
you're
me.
in my house now because this is in my home office. We used to have a big studio house, but it was a waste of money. We only used it once or twice a week.
Sure.
So now we have plenty of space in my house. And so my wife has a studio upstairs and I have a studio downstairs.
Well,
So,
a beautiful place, by the way.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about what you do in the land space.
Well, really simple. Well, maybe some people wouldn't think it's simple, but we basically just increase the value of the land. And the way we do that is called land entitlements. Well, what's entitlements? A lot of people don't even know what that means. It's really simple. We just take land and we get it approved for development, right? So just because a property is zoned, whatever it may be, that doesn't mean you can go develop it. There's an approval process you have to go through. And that approval process is called entitlements. And that's what we specialize in.
So you take, what's your typical kind of property before you go after?
It's changed over the years.
Okay.
But I mean, when I first started out 23 years ago, we'd go do a little 3, 4, 5 lot project, right? And then as we figured out that the big projects weren't much more work than the small projects, I would say our average project it changes constantly. Right now it's probably 250 lots, something like that. So let's just say our average project's probably 50 acres.
Okay.
And they could be bigger, but there's challenges with bigger projects.
What kind of challenges?
Just absorption. Absorption's the big one. So as we decided to start scaling our business in 21, so call it 4 years ago. And we went from just our local community or MSA, metro surrounding area, to being national. And so what happens is you're going national and looking at these different markets. Different markets have different demands, have different absorption. And so, when I'm going and doing
absorption means like you develop 500 lots. I mean, there's got to be 500 people, 500 families that buy those houses. And that means 500, there's got to be enough demand of new people coming to the area or people wanting to buy those.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like we have some projects right now that are over 500 lots. We got one that is getting ready to turn into 1,000 lots, and where they're great projects, but where that gets challenging is how long does it take for a builder to feel comfortable absorbing all those approved lots, undeveloped. Because remember, I've done tons of construction where I've actually put in all the infrastructure, the streets, the utilities, the sidewalks. But by the way, that's what almost bankrupted me in 2007, was projects that I was actually developing. Okay. And so we're in the business of getting it to that approval stage and then exiting before any construction, right?
So that's a couple of things. I'll get back with that. But so the first thing is like big enough to be interested for national builders.
So like a national or publicly traded home builder, our goal is that they can take our approved project in one take. And on average, based on the MSAs we're in, which are your well-known MSAs that are growing, is they usually want to be around 300, 350 lots or less. And 250 is the sweet spot where they'll take it from me all at once, where I don't have to give them what's called a takedown schedule, or say they're going to buy so many approved lots from me every year. We're in the business of getting in and out and turning our money. And so those projects that have those longer tails is not our model.
So if the project would be too big, they would say, okay, we'll take 100 lots from you, and then each year we'll take 50 after that. And now you, meaning you have to actually buy those lots and be in the deal for like 3, 4, 5, 10 years until everything is gone.
If it was big enough, yes.
And in your particular case, your particular model, you don't necessarily buy the land either. Like, I mean, you buy it perhaps just before you sell it, and almost like in a double closing transaction, but you don't hold on to the land for longer periods of time, typically, right?
Correct. So,
or do you? I don't know.
So no. So back before the Great Recession, I developed lots of projects, okay, where I put in all the utilities, all that construction work, right? It's called horizontal construction. I'd create what's called finished lots, so then the home builders could come in, buy those finished lots, and go build houses. And the reason, and we'll get to your question in a second, the reason we do less of that today is because what builders will pay us for approved projects and what our margin is or our profits compared to what they'll pay us for finished lots, it makes absolutely no sense at all for someone like me to go develop the land and create finished lots, because the amount of capital that is required to go get an A&D loan, an acquisition and development loan, plus all that debt that you got to personally guarantee, the additional upside risk reward makes absolutely no sense at all. So because these home builders are construction companies, right? Like they're construction, you can call them a home builder, they're construction companies. So the horizontal land development, putting in all that work, it's just part of their model, because what they're focused on is the home building profit. Because, you know, let's say they buy a lot from me for say a finished lot's worth $100,000. Okay. Well, they're going to go put on that lot a home that they're going to sell for $400,000, right? And so, and let's just say they want to make a 20% margin on that house. So they're making 80 grand, right? 80 grand a house.
Right.
That profit is substantially more than the amount of profit that's in the lots. And so what happens is that the risk for them to go and do the horizontal land development, it works for them because they're focused on the home building profit. They're not focused on the land development profit. And so therefore, because they value entitled lots so much, nothing against all my clients that are publicly traded national home builders, but entitlements is not their specialty. Nothing against any of them, but I would say for the most part, we are much better at entitlements than them. And so they'd rather buy an entitled lot from me, okay, than try to go do entitlements themselves. Right. So much so that a few of these publicly traded builders have actually turned deals over to me, had me go entitle it, and then they buy it back, okay? Right. So in other words, but you asked me, do I buy it, right?
Yes,
so you want to answer that. So we are in the business, and whoever's listening to this, make a note of this. We are in the business of controlling real estate, not owning real estate. When you control real estate, you maintain all your flexibility, right? Think about that. What do you mean, Cody? Well, if I close on it and own it, can I renegotiate the price when the market changes? Can I renegotiate the terms? Can I, worst case scenario, walk? No. Once you own it, you're stuck. And so we're in the business of controlling it, increasing its value while we control it. And then once it's entitled, we exit through what you said a moment ago, a double closing or a simultaneous closing. We do own it for a split second.
Right.
And we use the builder's money to pay the seller, and we make our profits out of the middle for the value we added to that asset. We are in the value add business. Right. Right?
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I expected you to say. So, but going back quickly to the builder. So essentially you're saying the builders know that they have the equipment, the infrastructure, the manpower, everything to put the horizontal development in place, which means the underground utilities, the pay, the streets, the things, the sidewalks, all this kind of stuff. And so but what they don't know well how to do is how to do the entitlement. So in tendency, if I'm hearing that right, they're willing to almost like overpay a little bit for the entitled lots, because the rest of it is so easy for them in a way, right? So So if you were to go and entitle it, and then you put the infrastructure in place because you don't have the crew and don't have the thing, you have to hire third parties for that, you end up spending more than they would spend. And yes, you get a higher price, but it's not that much. The cost benefit analysis is not in your favor. You make a little bit more money, but you take exponentially more risk on that deal.
Huge amount of more risk.
Yeah.
So most
and
of
more
our
involvement, because now you're dealing with actual people and machinery and things and all this kind of stuff.
And change orders and all that.
Yeah.
But to be clear, like even the publics, most everybody, including ourselves, if we were to do the horizontal, we all use a third party. So whatever general contractor they use to do the land development is the same general contractor I would use. So they don't do it in-house. The difference is the risk of doing the actual land development. It's risk to them, but not the same risk as it is to me, because they need that project in order to go build homes, which is what their brand's all about. Right? That's what they do. And so if they've got to go put in that horizontal in order to have inventory to build homes on, they will do it, because otherwise they're out of business.
And for you, it's a risk. Once you build it, you still need to go find a buyer.
Yeah.
And if you build something that people don't want, now you're kind of screwed, versus they can build it right away.
So most of the big,
within the rules, of course.
Most of the big national or publics, I could go pre-sell them those finished lots. Okay. And they would give me, say, 19% earnest money. And so that's a substantial amount of earnest money. But if you've been through the Great Recession like me and them, they'll walk from that earnest money in a second if the market flips upside down. And now I'm stuck with an A&D loan that I personally guaranteed that's a $40, $50, $60 million A&D loan, and it gets painful really quick.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so
what happened there in that time? What happened? Let's dive into 2007.
Yeah. So what happened is in 2006, top of my game, right? Like back then I was, what was I, 28, right? Worth a substantial amount of money, was an egotistical, snot-nosed punk. The money came very quick. And I'll just say this, I'm so thankful I lost most of it. But 'cause I learned a lot more losing it than I ever did making it. It humbled me tremendously. But when we go back then, I was in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Okay. And I'll just tell you, a lot of people around me went bankrupt. I even know people that committed suicide through the Great Recession. And I'm not any smarter than any of those that went bankrupt. There's only two reasons I didn't go bankrupt. One is because I was in Idaho. And Idaho or Boise is what's called an urban sprawl market. And so there's no control on demand. So what happens is those are the first markets to get hit. And when I was getting spanked in Boise, okay, I then was able to come over to Oregon and Washington and start getting out of deals left and right because it was coming, right? And the people that were in Oregon and Washington hadn't felt it yet, okay? That's the first reason why I lost 90% of my net worth instead of all of it, okay? The second reason is because I hate negative energy, meaning that my bank at the time, don't hold me to this, but I think they had 173 files on their desk of loans that were in default. Okay. And so that was the only bank negotiation I did where I did what's called a deed in lieu. Okay. And I wrote them a big check for them to take the project. All right. It saved me from going bankrupt, but because I hate negative energy and I move quick. So I was pursuing the bank instead of the bank pursuing me. But I will tell you, during the Great Recession, and I don't know if you can relate to this, Jack, but I probably missed one of the biggest opportunities for wealth generation that I'll ever see in my life.
Right.
Because I was so focused on getting out of stuff, and I didn't think at all about how to reposition and how to pick up all these distressed assets. And the guys that were a lot smarter than me, because either they had good mentors, coach, masterminds, right, or they'd just been around the block, those guys generated a substantial amount of wealth by going in and picking up those assets left and right. And so
we did well during that time, but we played way too small.
Yeah.
My number one regret is that instead of buying 40 houses, which we did, we should have bought 400 or 4,000 and we actually had discussions during that time to set up a fund and go deep in, but then we chickened out and didn't go full in because, I mean, the word out there was like, real estate's never going to come back. And
Yeah, sure.
I had not gone around the block too many times. It was my first time around the block. So I was like, I bought, basically when houses were for sale for $50,000 that 2 years before sold for $250,000. I realized there's no way to lose, but I wasn't comfortable yet taking other people's money and risking it. So I just put my money in and we ended up buying a bunch of houses. 10x though, most of these houses 10x in value over the next 5 to 10 years. And we still have the majority of them. So this is great. Was a nice boost to our net worth, but I wish I would have done 10x. But anyway.
Well, you did. You were smarter than me because I didn't capitalize on it basically at all. In 2008, I bought an online health and fitness company. And that's how I learned internet marketing, right? In the online space.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a huge opportunity. So I'm glad you captured on it a little bit.
To some degree, yeah. That's when we actually started getting into improved real estate because we hadn't touched anything before. We owned our own house. And other than that, we only did land deals. All right. So now fast forward. So now you're doing these development deals. I mean, these entitlement deals. You don't do horizontal development anymore. You don't put the roads and the things and the stuff in place anymore. And you've gone nationwide. Now, going nationwide in this model, how does that work? Because don't you have to show up at the council meeting on an ongoing basis? So you got people flying around all the time, or how does that work? Because even the council meetings no longer happen via Zoom anymore.
Yeah. So you just made me chuckle. So first, let's say this. You and I going through the Great Recession, things have been challenging since mid-22. So for, say, the last 3 years. And the things I learned then is helping me today. So we can talk about that in a moment.
Yeah,
but so how do I take this model? And by the way, the other thing I'll tell you is we will still do horizontal land development. We'll still do all the construction because we are a full-fledged development company, but only when it makes sense, right? And guess what?
When does it make sense?
Since 2012, so the last 13 years, it's only made sense one time.
Okay.
What
made
it made sense is that I wasn't pleased with the returns or the upside of exiting at entitlements compared to the offers I was getting for finished lots, and weighing out the risk reward. It made sense to deliver the finished lots.
Sure.
That's only happened one time in the last 13 years. And so, but okay, now how do I scale this nationally? First of all, I can tell you that it's very painful. When you're trying to innovate and scale at the same time, it's very, very hard. And I've learning that through experience. Because if I want to go scale, but copy someone else that's already done it, that's much easier than me trying to innovate, trailblaze, me find the path and scale at the same time. It's freaking hard. And it's been much harder than I thought it was going to be. With that said, our industry is extremely old school. Okay. Like I've been cold calling, doing off-market deals since the beginning. A lot of our competitors still don't do that today. That's why when I talk about wholesalers, I always say wholesalers are the best off-market prospectors in the world because you understand off-market prospecting. Okay. Our industry does not. Right. But because I do, is what allows me to pick up deals all over the country because I'm better at marketing than most anybody in my space. Okay. But Cody, how do you do these deals virtually? Well, it brings me to my next point. Technology. Okay. We leverage technology as much as possible. Okay.
What kind of technology?
Mapping softwares, right? Sure. Research software. As simple as most of our competitors do this too, but as simple as a video call, right? Like whatever it may be. And now we're going deep in AI and all kinds of stuff. But we try to leverage technology as much as possible because technology it helps make virtual possible. So like people would say, oh, I'm going to go drive for dollars, or I'm going to go drive by and look for land. Are you kidding me, bro? I can do all that through software and technology and map. Like I don't need to go drive you know how many deals I've done that I've never even seen? I don't need to I can see more through technology than I can visiting the site.
So I'm 100% with you on that end. That we do the same thing
Yeah.
with our land deals. I haven't seen a piece of land that I flipped or that I wholesaled in 17 years.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to see them. They're all over the place. They're all over the country. They're in Hawaii. They're everywhere.
Yeah,
The only reason the Hawaiian ones I go see, right? Because
of course.
Got to go visit those. But other than that, so
You talk about the city council meetings. You want me to get to that?
That's the main thing. Is like the other day I belong to a group here that I need to introduce you to called RIAC, the Real Estate Investment Advisory Council. Basically a lot of the larger developers here in town belong to that group, and it's real estate focused, commercial real estate focused. I think the minimum you need to be a member of is you need to either own or control $50 million worth of real estate. So with that said, they had a meeting the other day and a panel discussion about development and the future of development and where is development going and how is the relationship. And to a point, every single person on the panel basically said the number one key to getting through things, even in markets like Phoenix, where developments are faster, Phoenix and Texas and so on, where developments happen a little bit faster than in other places. And of course, they told horror stories about California, but where it might take 5 years to get something through. They talk, even here, the time is now doubled. Because this is such a fast-growing metro area, MSA, and so on. So they talked about, to the point, every single one of them said, one of the number one keys you need to do is build a really good personal relationship with the council members, with the people the engineers, with the people that basically can put all the problems in your way. How do you do that remotely with your team, with you? What involvement do you have in those kind of things?
Good question. Boots on the ground, I'll call it, is important. But that doesn't mean it has to be my staff.
Okay.
So whenever we go into a new metro area, we always hire the best engineer in that market that has a relationship with that jurisdiction.
Already.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
sense.
hire an attorney if needed that has a relationship with that jurisdiction. They're the boots on the ground. The idea of having to have a physical office there and physical people there is old school.
Yeah.
Is these consultants are my boots on the ground. They're the ones that have the relationship. Now, don't get me wrong, my entitlement team, the department that gets these deals entitled, I'm not going to say that they aren't on planes. They are on planes. They go to important meetings, but they're not in every meeting. And they're not feeling like they got to go there every week just to
Wine and
be
dine.
there. Right?
Yeah.
But I do think relationships are important. And we get that done through those third parties. But I actually did a video about this just this morning. And my team asked me to do a video about what I thought was the number one most important thing in order to be successful with our model. And I thought about it. I'm like, gosh, there's so many. But directly related to what we're talking about right now, what I said in that video was to be open-minded. And I would argue that our willingness to be open-minded and to go outside the box and be creative and do what it takes to find a win-win is one of the most powerful reasons of why any project I've ever attempted to get approved in 23 years, I've gotten approved. And that's because we stay open-minded. Let me take that a step further. Is that with any of these projects we do, there's laws and codes in place that are supposed to govern what we can and can't do. The problem is the public is not aware of those laws and codes. The public has their opinions, has their agenda. And then comes the challenge that the city council or the mayor or whoever it may be, they're elected officials. So guess who they want to listen to? They want to listen to the public. Okay. Well, the public, if I forced it down the city's or county's throat, their opinion doesn't really matter. Does it meet law or code or does it not? And if I chose to be stern like that, I wouldn't have the success rate we do. What we choose to do is to listen to all those opinions and motivations and figure out a way, how can we take care of those as much as possible and still have a project that wins? And so all the time, We will do things that we're not required to do by law or code just to make a politician look good or just to put a public at ease. And to me, that open-mindedness, that willingness to go outside the box and be creative is what has allowed us to be successful as we are.
Makes total sense.
Right?
Now, you come across a lot of the, what's it called, the NIMBYs?
I don't know what that means.
The not in my backyard people?
Oh, yeah. We've had crazy ones, right? Where, hey, my dog craps out there. That's where my dog goes to bathroom, right? And it's just hilarious, right? It's like it's private property. And so we deal with that stuff all the time.
Right. But I hear that, again, at that same meeting. I'm not in land development as much. I'm involved in a few land development deals as a passive participant, where a student of ours brought deals to us, and I brought him to one of our development partners, and they ended up doing the deal. And so I'm cut into the deal in some shape or form in a minor stake, but it's not my major expertise. Yeah. But again, in that meeting, they talked about that it's getting more and more popular for these NIMBY, or like, but not in my backyard organization, to actually get really well organized and put up opposing websites and all kinds of stuff in there. So what do they typically want? They do just not want the project?
They want to be heard. I mean, they want to be heard. That's it. You know, I mean, we see movies about it all the time. And so you have a choice. Can I tell you to pick your battles? Right? Yeah. Get the project approved. And so what can I do for these people, whether what they're saying is right or wrong? It doesn't matter. How do I get them as much as possible to support my project so I can get it closed and move on to the next one? Right. Like, I said this on that video this morning. Leave your ego at the door.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And it's just like, swallow your pride. Right. And who cares if you agree with them? It doesn't matter. Right? Get the deal done.
What's the most extreme thing you had to do for them in order to get a project passed?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think.
Is it like related to like reducing density?
I've designated parkland. I've planted trees in people's backyards. I've paved their driveways. All kinds of just whatever. Right?
In people's driveways of like in the neighborhood?
Yeah, or a neighbor, right? Like I'm going to do something on their driveway because their driveway's trash in return for them backing down and supporting my project.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so just all kinds of stuff like that. But before I forget, there's something I want to point out here.
Sure, absolutely.
So all my clients, and by the way, yes, most of my clients are national and public because of the size of my projects. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing wrong with selling to the local home builders. I used to get a lot of fulfillment on selling projects to the locals when my projects were smaller. The locals can't afford, they can't make my deals today work because the local home builder is dying. Mm. And so if you're able to deliver them inventory to help keep them alive, that's extremely fulfilling. But with my clients, the publics and the nationals, those guys are a factory line. They are a production company. And what happens when you are a production company or a factory line, what do you have to have? You have to have extremely, extremely strict policies and procedures and a very defined box of how things go. Because if you try to go outside that box, it screws up the whole factory line. Right. Well, here's what I can tell you about entitlements and being really good at entitlements. No two deals are the same. No factory line can exist. Is the reason we have the success rate we do is because we pride ourselves in being outside the box.
And that really is the reason why they are not good at it, because they can't be both creative and super structured at the same time.
100%. Yeah. Plus the time that it takes us to get it done, for them to not have to deal with that time, it looks better on their books. Right? And so, so to be clear, it's not that they overpay. They find tremendous value in what it is we do. Right. And some people say, well, no, Cody, you just have relationships with all these guys. That's true, I do. But can I humble myself before you right now and say they could care less if it's Cody calling them with a deal or it's Billy Bob. Yeah. At the end of the day, they're deal junkies. There's a housing shortage in our country, and they need deals. I'm just here to serve. I'm just deal flow for them. That's all I am.
No, I totally get it. Like the deal that I'm involved in with a small percentage is like a $8.4 million deal that has gotten already like conditional approval or like preliminary approval, and builders are already knocking on the door wanting to buy it for something like $12 million, subject to the approval. And so it's there, and this is the person doing that is somebody who has done several entitlement, but is not. It's not dozens of entitlement. It's not like the number one guy in the region. It's somebody that started a few years and done a few of those. So if the deal is good, the location is good, the entitlement is properly done, the lot size are properly, everything fits the box. It doesn't matter who you are.
They could exactly right, and they could care less. They could care less. They'd never ask me how much money I'm making. Good. They don't care.
So when you started out, though, you did some wholesaling too, right?
So when
because I like we always
I don't love the word wholesale.
We always like joke back and forth because he's like you're bashing the wholesalers even in your advertising.
So okay, let's just hit that real quick. So I just want to say this publicly,
and it's all good.
So like there's an individual.
I wouldn't invite you if I would have hard feelings on it. Right?
So if we want to go down that road, we can. But I want to send. Can I do a public apology on your podcast?
You don't have to, but yeah,
I want to. I feel convicted to do so. So about a year and a half ago, there was an individual that was running our marketing at our education company, Vestrite. And he knew I didn't like wholesaling, okay, or I'm not a fan of it. I have some, by the way, I did Brandon Turner's podcast like a year ago, and they put in the description of the podcast, Cody doesn't like wholesalers. And I'm like, whoa. You need to fix that. It's Cody doesn't like wholesaling. I have several friends that I really care for that are wholesalers. But with that said, I lost my train of thought. But I want public apology. So a year and a half ago, we did some ads, right? And they were all over online. And it was me talking about wholesaling and how I said some pretty direct stuff about wholesaling. And one day the Lord convicted me that, Cody, you need to stop. And so I instantly called my team and I said, get rid of anything that is bashing wholesaling. I don't want it. I feel convicted about it. So ever since then, you've never seen me go directly after wholesaling.
I noticed that. But the thing is, I never took it wrong because wholesaling has its place and what you do has its place, and they're just completely different animals. And I can totally agree that what you do, if you look at that, is like, why would I wholesale those things and only make $10 or $20 or $30,000 a pop when I can take this thing and make several $1 million in a pop if I just know how the skills work.
Yeah.
On the counter side of things is like, if somebody gets started and doesn't have the experience and the standing power and the expertise and the time and things like that, a wholesale deal is a perfect deal to get started with it. But even I say sometimes, I always say that I use our wholesale land deals as a step one of a 1, 2, 3 step.
Sure.
What is step one? Wholesale, it's a cash machine. Yep. It's something that produces money. Step 2 is use that money to invest in other things to then step 3 produce the overall long-term cash flow that you don't actually have to do any of it anymore if you don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. So it's I never went out there saying like wholesaling is a means and its end. No, it's a means to an end. The end is that it generated cash that you then apply to something else. And in that sense, it's not that different because yours is a longer time horizon, but it still is a one-time pay that you get. You get packed out, but it's like a 10x, 100x kind of paycheck over a wholesale deal. Right?
Yeah.
Nice.
So let me reply to that. So first, let me go back to the question you asked me. So when I first got going 23 years ago, probably for the first 5 years, I probably, don't hold me to this, I'm just guessing.
Sure, whatever.
But I probably assigned half the deals I did. Okay? And so is assigning wholesaling? I don't know. All I know is any one of those deals, I invested money into them to get them through what's called a feasibility study or a due diligence. And so I invested money into the property doing that process. So that's where I don't know if it qualifies wholesaling or not.
Not technically, but it's related, yeah.
But here nor there, here's what I love in real estate. Here's how I think you generate substantial wealth in real estate is through a value add business model, right? And so what's value add? Well, what are you doing to increase the value of the asset? Is that if you are doing something to increase the value of the asset, the opportunity for wealth is substantial. And that could be as simple as just holding the real estate, because that's still a value add model, because it's the hold, it's the time that's increasing the value of the asset. It's called appreciation.
Land banking, we do splitting sometimes.
Yeah, land banking, splitting, fix and flips, right? Yeah. It's a value add model. All these guys that are out there doing a syndication stuff, like they're usually increasing the value of the asset or increasing the NOI, the net operating income, by decreasing vacancy, decreasing operating costs, increasing rent. Whatever they're doing, they're increasing the net operating income of that asset, which therefore is a value add business model. And so, but the thing I love about my model, Jack,
tell me,
is that I control real estate. We know that. And we know that takes time. On the average, we control an asset for approximately, we'll get control of it for approximately 2 years. Okay? Let's just say our average deal takes 18 months to get done. What's so fun about that is that what we pay the property owner for allowing us to control it that long and increase the value of the asset, we'll usually pay them 5 to 10 times the current value of their land.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And so if your land is worth 500 grand today as it sits, I usually will pay you somewhere between 2.5 and 5 million for that land once I get it approved for development. I usually will increase the value of the asset from the as-is value today. I usually will increase the value of the asset 10 to 20 times. And so in essence, even though on paper, the landowner's not my partner, in a lot of ways they are, because I'm cutting them in on half that upside.
Right.
Make sense?
So yes, that actually was the last segment that I wanted to go into. Like, how do you typically structure those deals with the landowner in particularly? And you already started it. So
let me tell you a quick story on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let's say you're Billy Bob. Okay. So Billy Bob, I make you an offer.
I sound like Billy Bob.
Right? Billy Bob.
Good
okay.
German,
Jack owns a piece of dirt, right? So Jack owns a piece of dirt, and I go and I make you an offer for $2.5 million. And you're like, well, my wife or my sister or my neighbor or my cousin, they're a realtor. And they say real estate transactions usually close in 30 or 60 days. So Cody, I can't wait 18 months. I need you to close in 30 or 60 days. And I'll say, okay, Jack. Well, so here's how it works in the development space. And I would assume whoever's advising you really hasn't done any transactions in the development space. But I'll tell you what, Jack, I'll close it in 30 or 60 days. But obviously, if I'm going to close it in 30 or 60 days, I got to pay you what's it actually worth today. So let me ask you this, Jack. Would you rather sell it to me for $2.5 million and give me 18 months to increase the value of your land? Or would you rather me write you a check right now for 500 grand and I'll close? In all of my years, 23 years, after explaining it that way, only one landowner, and it was just like 9 months ago, only one landowner in 23 years has ever said, I'll take the money today. I'm buying a golf course in Florida. I needed to pick up a piece next to it because I needed it for my project. And this lady, I said, I'll pay you $1.3 million I think, because I'm already halfway through the project. So it was like $1.3 million in a year. Okay. And she said, no, I need you to close now. And I said, well, okay. Well, if I close now, the price is 300 grand. She said, well, I'll take the 300 grand. I'm like, you sure? I want to make sure I just heard what you said. She said, yeah. She said, and I'll carry half of it for 2 years. So
that doesn't make any sense.
Obviously something going on in her life, I don't know. So I wrote her a check for 150 grand. She carried 150 grand. I put that into my land bank division, and I'm selling it to my entitlement company for the $1.3 million.
Sure.
And so now I have an additional upside that could have been hers. But that was the first time, Jack, in 23 years.
Yeah. Yeah. With the lower price properties, we find them. We call that, we sometimes make what we call a dual offer. We basically say like, hey, you want whatever, $50,000 right now,
right,
or you want, give me an option for a 6 months or 12 months option for $100,000. And surprisingly, many people take the $50,000, but it's a different kind of property.
Yeah.
It's more like they inherited the property. They don't care about it. It's not development land. It's not value increase land. And they just want the bird in the hand instead of two in the
Sure.
bushes. But in this case, it makes total sense that they would, like, it's a 3 to 5x. So you're not to, that is interesting. So you're not looking to get the best deal out there.
No,
you're looking
man.
to get a deal that is really profitable for you guys, but at the same time, isn't that tempting though to sometimes go? You could say instead of 2.5, you could say give me 1.5 in 2 years, and you have an extra $1 million for you.
Yeah.
Where do you draw that line? Do you have a formula for that? You say if I can take it from 500 to 5 million, I give you 2.5, or is it?
Good question. So first of all, we're just in the math business.
Right.
So there's
Is there a certain return you're looking for?
And so, I mean, of course, we have certain minimum profits and margins and IRRs and all kinds of things we got to hit. But let me say this. I won't say who we were talking about, but I was talking to one of my advisors today, and we know the same person. Mm-hmm. And I let him know that, that person's still a great friend of mine, but we're not doing deals together. And I said, we don't see things the same way. Mm-hmm. And they said, that's not surprising to me because you're not as hungry for money as they are. So to answer your question, it is not tempting to me because that land, I actually care about that landowner. Mm-hmm. That's fulfilling to me. So I have no desire to make money by then getting less than they could. That to me is not fulfilling. You see on my shirt, purpose, impact, fulfillment.
Right.
To me, that type of approach is not in alignment with how I believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I understand. You're also a very believing, very Christian person. You have those values are very core to you.
They are.
Still, there's got to be a number that you come up with on there.
Absolutely. We have a whole valuation we do. And whatever that valuation says I can pay, right? Am I tempted to offer them half that to see if I can get it? No.
Right.
I don't need to, right? Like because the reality is if I'm coming up to that number, that means someone else is willing to pay that same number I am. And so to me, it doesn't feel good if I try to rip it below that. It just doesn't feel good. That's not the legacy I'm trying to create. And so, I truly do care about these landowners.
Beautiful. That's creating win-wins. And as long as you know that you have at the price that you're offering, you have enough buffers and enough protections and enough things, and you'll make a really good profit out of that. There's nothing. That's a beautiful thing. That's actually not that often to see. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I like that.
It's something special about our model. But you know what? Taking like I don't know, apartment deals or something, right? They're paying market value too, right? I mean, so they're not trying to rip it below market value to make a buck. They're paying market value. They're making their money on what they're going to do to increase the value. Where mine's really special.
Yes, okay? and everyone out there is out to get the property at the cheapest price they possibly can.
Sure.
So the willingness to pay more than you have to is rare.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is in any value-add business model, you don't have to pay less than market value to make money. That's all I'm saying, right?
Correct.
Okay,
that's correct. Yes.
So, but what's unique about ours is it's not that we're just paying market value. We're actually paying way above market value.
Yes.
But you just got to give me the time. And the other thing we do too is that we also give earnest money along the way too, right? And so for them, they're not just stuck holding the bag if I disappear, right? Is that we're giving them non-refundable earnest money along the way, to where if something fell apart for some reason, they have money in their pocket and a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, makes sense. Very good. So now, very last thing, you obviously also have an educational business. You teach people how you do what you do.
Yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So back in 2019, I don't want to go too spiritual on you, but I felt like I was convicted that I needed to take my specialty knowledge and experience and impact lives with it, right? And I can truly tell you with all of my heart, the backbone of my education company, Vestrite, is exactly what it says on my t-shirt. Purpose, impact, fulfillment. The Lord gave me, how many people do you know that teach what I do?
Personally, nobody, and I don't think there's many out there.
Okay. No. There's one that I know of, but he doesn't even remotely teach what I teach. He uses the word entitlements, but it's elementary. Okay. So great guy though. Okay. And so, so no one. Well, there we go. The Lord blessed me with this unique experience that's very niche. And by like the lives we've already changed through VestRight over the last 6 years, if I shut down VestRight tomorrow, it's been a huge success because we've had impact. We've had success stories that have brought me to tears, and I don't cry, right? And so what happens is when the backbone of your business or the foundation of your business is something meaningful like that, it totally changes the whole perspective, right? Well, today now, a lot of our students do deals with us, right? And people would say, Cody, you're so freaking brilliant. Like you went and started this education company and now all these students are yours or endless deal flow. And can I break it to you? I'm not that brilliant. That had nothing to do with my ideas. I'm not that smart. The only reason students are bringing deals to me today is because they kept asking if they could be my partner over and over and over again. So then I finally created a partner program.
The same here. Like I've been teaching this for 17 years and only about 2 years ago, we started opening ourselves up to that because like, I don't want to partner with my students because there's so many deals that they can do. Why do I need to take 50? I looked at it like, why do I need to take 50% of their money if I can just show them how they can do the deal 100% themselves, because I can get as many deals as I want to. Yeah. But people, particularly in the larger deals, they more and more came to us because they're not comfortable. Their thing, perhaps there's an earnest money component. There's a like subtitle cleanup component that they just didn't know how to do. And finally, we said like, you know what? If it's a bigger deal, you can bring it to us. We can do it together, and that's been very successful too.
That's awesome.
But it didn't come from us; it came from them, right? Yeah. And I agree with you. Like we care. One of our taglines is "We care more." We bend over backwards for the students. We always say like we don't optimize for profit; we optimize for impact. Yeah. And it's kind of the very same thing.
Well, here's what I always in one of my decks, right? When I'm doing a presentation, there's a slide that's hashtag drop the mic, right? We've all heard drop the mic, like walk away. Is that slide says we make more doing it than we'll ever make teaching it. Meaning that VestRight, my education company, is a drop in the bucket financially compared to what we actually make doing what we teach, right? Yeah. There's more to it for us. It's the impact. Right. And so in our success stories, we have success stories, people doing deals all on their own. We have success stories of people that we've stroked checks to for partnering with us after the deal closes. And so each to their own, right? Like we have one couple, they've closed numerous deals on their own. And when they found me online and got educated, they were screen printing in their garage, right? I got another guy doing deals on his own. His name's Mike. The other people were named Craig and Mary. But Mike, been in real estate 20 years. Fix and flips, new builds, wholesaling, all of it. Guy made $10.1 million on his very first deal. Wow. After he learned my business model. Made more on his first deal with my business model than he had made in his whole 20-year career in real estate combined. Beautiful. Right? Yeah. That's emotional for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so, but the thing is, we market all the time, 6 and 7 figure paydays, right? Like I just wrote a student a check a little while ago for $350,000 for bringing me a deal, right? Those are big numbers that are exciting, but I want to make it very, very clear. This is not an instant gratification business model. Oh, no. If you want instant gratification, this is not for you.
Do wholesaling.
Right? Yeah, do wholesaling. But because you can't expect to generate this type of wealth, okay, with instant gratification mindset. And I will say, I would love what you said about the leveling up because you eventually got to more of like a hold or passive or cash flow, right? Take this capital and eventually be in a hold. And the thing is about a hold model is it's definitely not an instant gratification model.
No, it's
the
not.
way you build wealth through a hold is very, very long-term, right? Like I have close friends of mine that are big players in that space. And for them to make the type of money that we make on a deal, it might take them 20 years of holding something. Okay. Right. And so I respect that where you end up as far as what you just talked about is in a model that instant gratification isn't part of it. Because I truly believe it's really hard to generate substantial wealth with an instant gratification mindset.
True, and
very
it's
difficult.
it's very difficult. The instant gratification leads you automatically to a cash machine business, and there's nothing wrong with a cash machine business. It just has very little enterprise value, and it's usually a transactional business, and then immediately cash stops the moment you stop the action.
That's right.
And so that's why I always tell people wholesaling is fantastic to get started. It's fantastic to get you out of debt, to get you money on the sideline, to get going, to get you perhaps to quit your job. But eventually, if you want to be in a position to like sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais for the rest of your life, it'll not get you there unless you build up a big pile of money that you then hope outlasts you. But ideally, you use it to reinvest into something else. Or you build the skill set up so that the next time a deal comes along, you do something different with that deal, like an entitlement. And that's why entitlement, as in our coaching business, starting to play a minor role, not necessarily because I am the expert on it, but because we have so many people that have now built up so much experience that they come across a deal now and says like, it's almost a pity if I sell this off as a wholesale deal and make $100,000. This is a perfect property that I should be able to entitle. And in those cases, we'll put them together with different people that they can, including you, we send some over to you guys, where they can go and potentially partner with the true experts. And we have a group of experts that we have relationships with that we can bring them in together. And then they can make those big paychecks, those 4X, 5X, 10X paychecks, and learn that skill set over time.
All I ask is if, like bringing me a deal, all I want you to do is find me a ready, willing seller. Okay? Do not talk price. Do not talk terms. Don't even remotely present an agreement to those people, because very few people know how to structure these deals, know the right type of agreement to use, know how to price these deals. And so what happens is that I believe creating false expectations with sellers, I was getting ready to say it's a sin. I don't think it's a sin, but I don't think it's fair to the landowner. And so leave that to us as the experts. That's why as a part of our coaching program, depending on what level you buy, we actually give you our in-house contract, okay, that we've spent 20 years refining and spent 6 figures continuing to tweak, is because it's a very specialty agreement and contract. And anybody that isn't in my space, they're not going to have what they need to have in the agreement.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So how do people get a hold of you?
So we created a link just for you, Jack.
Okay, wonderful.
It's vestright.com/Jack. That's simple.
Vestright with a V.
VESTRIGHT, vestright.com/Jack. Go there. Free training for you guys.
Awesome.
And it's just a space that I would strongly suggest no one try to play in unless you're educated. Because when I started doing this 23 years ago, a Vestright didn't exist, and I have plenty of battle wounds because of it.
Yeah. And make sure that you understand that when you go after those deals, you won't get paid 30 days later.
That's right.
That it'll take 2 years to get paid. But then the paycheck can be 10x.
Yeah. Like we did a video the other day. Like, let's just say the average house wholesaler makes $10,000 a house. Okay. Let's say that I go do a 250 lot project. I get it approved for development. On the lower end, we make $10,000 per lot. So I have some deals I've made $100,000 per lot. Okay. But let's just say on the low end, it's $10,000 a lot.
2.5 million.
So $2.5 million. So look at it this way. In one deal, it's like me wholesaling 250 houses.
Right.
So you choose. But if instant gratification is your game, our game's not for you.
And that's why when I invited you, like first one invited you because we're friends and know each other for a long time, and it was well overdue to bring you here. But the other thing is not either or. No. This is the perfect, your model is the perfect model to do both, to do what we do, the land flipping, and then come across this great deal. And it's like, no, this is not a wholesale deal. Let me just pass that on. So you make your $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 wholesale fees on the normal wholesale deals, while at the same time, a true expert works on the other side of the deal and gets you deal finished.
I'll get it under contract.
Right.
I'll capitalize it. I'll manage it. I'll sell it. And when it closes, I'm cutting you in on the profits. And so whether that's the one I just told you the other day for 350 grand, the one before that was like 610 grand, like don't leave that money on the table.
Exactly right. Right. Very good. Well, with that said, vestright.com/Jack. I didn't even know that link existed, but now we do. With that said, that's a wrap. So thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
I learned a lot. It was fantastic. And with that said, guys, as always, give us those 5-star reviews, share it with your friends, get educated. There's so much to learn in the real estate space. There's so many ways to skin that cat. And with that said, see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. This podcast is made possible by Ultimate Boardroom, the mastermind for the top land entrepreneurs in the United States.